What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? Today we're gonna be going over this list of questions from ODD TV. He's got a list of questions that he answers for flat earthers, and he gives his own kind of intellect or whatnot, his own opinions on the answers to these questions.
Is outer space even real?
Yes and no. What you see in the sky as far as stars and wandering stars, also known as planets, are there. How could we deny them? We don't know what they actually are, but they are there.
So we're going to be listening to his answers. Not all of them. Some of the questions are pretty tired and boring and stuff, so we're not going to exactly be going over it. But I will give you the general overview and why he's wrong. What about satellites and GPS? Okay, so basically with the satellites and GPS, what this guy does is he says, oh, these aren't actually real. What they are, you know, fake CGI. Why can't you see them in the sky? You know, there's so much junk up there, and GPS is done by triangulation, which isn't wrong. GPS works by triangulation, but the whole global positioning satellite means that there's satellites in the sky. You got to have at least 3 satellites in the air above you in order to get a GPS signal. But he thinks that it's just cell towers. And I have to tell you something. When you're out in the middle of the woods where you're like 50 miles from like a satellite tower or whatnot, and you just don't have any signal, I bet you still have GPS, because the satellite, the global positioning satellite is made so that at any one point on the earth, you have at least 3 GPS satellites in the air. So there's that. He says that like the internet or whatnot is transmitted through ground wire and everything on the seafloor. That's true. Most of the internet stuff is done through ground wires or whatnot, but there are some instances of it needing to be through satellites, like satellite TV, for instance. He just basically denies anything that doesn't comport with his own bias, you know, as far as the flat earth goes. And he just pulls anything out of his butt, and he dismisses things without good evidence to dismiss them with. Is outer space even real? Xander, is outer space real? Yes, it is. Even my 8-year-old son knows it is. Xander just said, what are you flat earth idiots think you're doing?
Yes and no.
Wait, yes and no? Like, what is this about?
What you see in the sky as far as stars and wandering stars, also known as planets.
Wandering stars is what ancient people used to call them because they didn't know planets existed. Just like this guy who's living in frickin' 5000 BCE.
Are there. How could we deny them? We don't know what they actually are.
Yes, we do know what they actually are. Most of them are burning balls of gas that are giving off illumination. You say that they're just illuminated objects with no explanation as to how they're being illuminated. You're also not explaining how exactly they are moving around us or anything like that. You're not explaining any of the forces like that. You're just pulling shit out of your ass yet again. Scott Seufert, $2 for the 8-year-old.
But they are there. Now, what we are told about outer space and what it is not true at all.
Wait, okay, so now it's incumbent upon you to tell me exactly what evidence you have to suggest that I need to just wipe my memory clean of all the information I know about space. Also, all of the images that independent observatories and everything like that have captured of like planets and solar systems and everything outside of our solar system and whatnot. You just gotta explain like a whole mountains and mountains of evidence, like Mount Everest amount of evidence in order. So I'd love to see where you go with this.
Everything we believe about so-called outer space is due mostly to Hollywood movies and other media, including children's cartoons.
No, it's not. It's due to independent scientific endeavors in which to study the universe on the whole. It's not because of frickin' Aladdin or whatever other cartoons that you want to watch.
Of course, NASA propaganda is the biggest culprit.
Oh, NASA propaganda! You mean the astronauts that are on the ISS right now that are not on a soundstage or anything like that?
As we have already gone over, there are no pictures of Earth, and even images of all the other so-called planets are computer generated.
Are you serious right now, bro? See, here's what I don't get, okay? This guy right here has 1 million views on this entire video that he has. And yet he's stealing video blocks, stock footage, and putting it in there and making money off of it. I go through great lengths in which to get free to use images and videos and stuff like that. But this guy just steals stuff and doesn't suffer any kind of consequences for it. That's bullshit.
NASA has gone on record numerous times stating that humans can't get past low Earth orbit.
Okay, I know where he's going with this. This is wrong. I mean, NASA has said that currently, right now, we can't travel past low Earth orbit because we don't have vehicles that can travel past low Earth orbit. That doesn't mean that we have, like, in the past, not been able to go past low Earth orbit. Obviously, we have. In case you don't know, the Van Allen radiation belts are the thing that's preventing us right now. The magnetic field of the Earth causes a bunch of radiation to be trapped around the Earth in 2 to 3 bands of it where it's high, a very, very intense amount of radiation. So during the Apollo missions, what they did was they launched and they went through the weakest portions of the field, and they only spent a couple hours in the field, which amounted to about 2 to 3 chest x-rays worth of radiation. But these people right here like to paint it as a bigger problem that we can't go out of it now. We had to decommission the Apollo stuff, and then they didn't have funding to go back to the moon or to develop new things. They also didn't have a good reason to go back to the moon, so there's no reason to leave low Earth orbit. That's why they built the shuttles that they did, and those were designed to sit in low Earth orbit. Now we want to get out of low Earth orbit and we want to travel places, so we're having to develop technology now that it can move. We don't want to pull out old Apollo technology and send people up like that. Why would we do that? We don't have any of that old technology anymore. 1.
NASA's next spacecraft, already being built and tested across America, will do those things and more.
This is the spacecraft that's going to take humans to explore the solar system. It's the next big step for NASA in exploration.
I like, look at his shirt. Money is slavery. Money is slavery.
Yes, money is slavery. You need money in order to, like, eat and live and all that other stuff. I can guarantee you this guy right here actually does use a whole lot of money. He probably makes a lot of money doing his flat earth shtick, too. He also makes a lot of money making his rap videos. I'm fairly certain this guy needs money and still uses it.
Get out, Illuminati.
Called the Orion Multipurpose Crew Vehicle, or MPCV, this next-generation spacecraft will enable America to explore beyond low Earth orbit.
Right. Puffalophagus 360 in the chat there pointed out how we use micro transistors in electronics nowadays, and no longer do the older analog transistors and whatnot. And that's the reason why those were a lot more durable. The Apollo missions did have shielding on them to help with the radiation, but the existing aircraft and whatnot and all the electronics and everything actually held up against the radiation to reduce it enough, but they still added some. But yes, that is the reason why we don't have access to that old of technology anymore.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
Well, yeah, for that particular aircraft. It's not that we haven't solved it before with other aircraft.
To build a rocket called SLS, which is a heavy lift rocket. It's something that is much bigger than what we have today, and it will be able to launch the Orion capsule with humans on board, as well as landers or other components to destinations beyond Earth orbit. Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
Yeah, so he's talking about currently right now with current technology. It's not that we've never been to the moon before. We haven't been past the Van Allen belts before. The Apollo missions were only engineered to get to the moon and land on the moon and stuff. There's been no reason for us to have to go back to the moon.
And unlike the previous program, we are setting a course with specific and achievable milestones. Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
Now, ODD is kind of framing this disingenuously because he's trying, at least when I first watched this, he made me think of the Apollo missions is what he was talking about. But I'm fairly certain what Obama's talking about here are the actual shuttle, like the shuttle program. And I think that the shuttle program had unachievable goals or whatnot. It had a lot of issues. And I think that what he's talking about here is the new program, like the new direction for NASA of where we want to go and the goals that we want to set. But he's framing it as, the Apollo missions never fucking happened because, but now we're going to make it happen.
Low Earth orbit is supposedly between 99 and 1,200 miles away. The funny thing is that they say the moon is over 200,000 miles away. How did we make it so far in the 1960s and 70s if we can't do it today?
Well, because we developed technology to get us there with the current technology at the time. We haven't had to go back to the moon. There's been no reason for us to go back to the moon. So now we need to develop new technology to get past low Earth orbit. We didn't need to go past low Earth orbit to do what we wanted to do in the shuttle program. So that is the reason why. It's a very mundane and simple answer, but they just throw this shit right out the window.
Also, the International Space Station, just like everything else brought to us by NASA, is a fake Freemasonic hoax, completely fabricated and done with special effects, models, pools, zero-G planes, and various other camera tricks.
Oh yes, the ISS is definitely a Freemasonic hoax. No, I mean, this guy right here, I mean, he's spot the fuck on, okay? It's Freemasonic. You can see it right there on the hole. We all signed our names. Freemasonic number 1, number 2, number 3, and that's just what we fucking did.
Making up stuff and in order to explain why it's fake instead of actually giving us good reasons why it's fake has been the hallmark of this entire video. I mean, he literally just says it's Freemasonic, it's like a Freemasonic hoax, but he doesn't actually prove how it is that. He doesn't show any actual evidence that it is a Masonic hoax. He doesn't show any evidence of how it's not actually there when you can go to Red's Rhetoric's channel right now, Red's Rhetoric, his channel right now, and you can see him filming the ISS traverse across the moon. You can go to Professor Stick channel right now and you can find a video where he times how long the astronauts are caught on camera being all zero-G. They are only zero-G for like 30 seconds at a time because they fly in sinusoidal patterns. So there's only about a 30-second time span for them to actually be zero-G, but the astronauts are zero-G for minutes upon minutes in their broadcast. So the zero-G flights don't make any kind of sense. So everything that he's saying here, he's just pulling directly out of his brown star.
I have you now.